when they like read, when someone reads the actual bio. I should say if I'm going to be there, don't worry about reading it. They'll just feel it or they won't, but I hope that you will feel it. Let's see. Speaking of feeling it, bear with me for a half a second here. Let's see if you can be with me in a moment.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say.
Okay, that's what I was hoping for.
Sometimes it's easy, you can take away.
Tony is absolutely right. You woke up this morning and you chose to be here. It is Saturday. In fact, we made eye contact right away. Actually, I made shirt contact. He has a shirt on that says W2TF. And it's like, where's the fishing, right? That's what you all want, right? Where's the fishing? But really, it's Saturday. We could be fishing. But you are choosing to be here. And I want to thank you for that. I am happy to be here. I hope that you are happy to be here. And in fact, if you're not happy yet to be here because you're still waking up, you will be by the time we get done with the next half hour. In fact, let's go back and do something. I'm going to play that music again for half a second. And I want you to just take time to shake hands with the people around you for a few minutes, okay? Or a few seconds. We won't take that much time. Ready? Go. Greet people. Session, but that connection is so important. So again, thank you for being here. I appreciate you. I hope that you understand that who you are and what you do makes such an incredible and life-changing impact, really, on the human beings in the school community. You are in a situation where you chose a profession, where you get this opportunity to have an impact. I want you to think about it. So many people go to their jobs every day, right? And they don't want to be there. They have no passion or enthusiasm for what they do. It's just another day. They know what to do. They know how to do it. But does their heart really want to be there? Well, for some of us, most of us hopefully, we know why we do what we do. And if you don't, one of my main goals today is to help you to reconnect with the why. Why do you do what you do? Because we are called to this profession where we get to interact with human beings every single day. Simon Sinek says this. He says, we can know what we are doing. We can even know how to do it. But unless we know the why, it lacks meaning and purpose. Think about that. So I want to share with you my why, and in doing so, hopefully, rekindle yours a little bit. I'm going to introduce you to my why. This is my sister, Kelly. This picture was taken about 2 to 3 months before she passed away. Kelly was born with a liver disease called biliary atresia. She was supposed to live till she was about 18 months old, and she lived till she was 12. she was born today, or almost 12. She died in October, her birthday was in December. If she was born today, where science has gone, my parents could have given some of their liver to her. It would, I mean, there's so much advancement in medicine today. But then that wasn't the case. And so we were blessed with Kelly for almost 12 years. And truly blessed is an understatement. For the people that really knew my sister, knew her for who she was on the inside, she made such an incredible difference in their lives. She was so full of love. She had a giggle that was just contagious. She was a loyal friend. She was just, in my realm, in my little world, the most amazing human being in the world. People that didn't know her, though, they tended to see her for what they saw on the outside, right? So I don't know if you can tell as much in this picture. One of the reasons I put this one in is you can compare skin color. But Kelly was very jaundiced. Not just that light yellow color that you see maybe when babies are born that are a little jaundiced, but extremely jaundiced. Her skin was almost a green color. She also often had scabs on her arms or on her face because her bilirubin levels were so high that it made her skin itch. And she would scratch without even thinking. In fact, you know that.
Primary biliary cirrhosis of the liver.
So you know that? Yeah, you know that feeling. And so it's almost like, I mean, this is minor compared to what we're talking about, but it's like having a mosquito bite that you know you shouldn't scratch, but you scratch because it just, oh, it feels better. It was kind of like that for Kelly. And so sometimes she'd fall asleep at night, she'd scratch her face or scratch her arms, and so she'd end up with little scabs. So when kids or even adults would look at her, they'd see green, they'd see scabs, and they also saw this big belly. Little tiny girl, but her liver was so swollen that her belly made her look like almost like she was 9 months pregnant. And so people that knew my sister just for who she was on the outside sometimes tended to tease her or bully her by today's standards, what we would see. In fact, there was one boy I'll always remember, his name was Richard, and he used to call her Green Martian. On a daily basis, that was his name for her. Hey, Green Martian, on the playground, just whenever he saw her. In fact, one day, I will always remember this, he was leaning against the wall of the Gardnerville Elementary School. I grew up in this area, and he was leaning against the wall. And my sister was playing over in the sand with some friends. I was a little 4th grader out on the playground, and I hear Richard, "Hey, Green Martian!" And Kelly just kind of tried to ignore him. He yelled again, "Green Martian, what are you doing?" He called her Green Martian a lot, but I don't know why on this day it was different. She kind of looked up at him with this little tiny smile like, "I'm not going to let you get to me." And her friends are there next to her trying to follow her lead, but it was really hard to follow her lead because you just wanted to, you know, say something or yell back or I wanted to punch him in the nose, you know, but I was this little puny and he was the biggest 6th grader there was at school. So this time he yelled, "Hey, Green Martian, what are you even doing here? Aren't you supposed to be dead?" And my little body just melted, watching my sister. And again, she just looks at him, that little smile, and just nods like, "You're not going to get to me." But I knew we got to her because I walked home with her. I saw her tears when she said, "Mommy, why does he have to be so mean?" I don't think Richard knew why he did what he did, really. I don't think he was aware. We talk about social emotional learning. He wasn't socially aware, nor was he self-aware. He didn't know. And in not knowing, he didn't get to experience all that was my sister, the joy, the love that she had, you know? There was another human being that I remember. And I didn't remember as a child. But I said I grew up in Gardnerville. I also lived and worked in Gardnerville. I was a teacher and a high school alternative education principal. And so I was in 7-Eleven about probably 15 years ago now. And I'm standing in the candy aisle. That's where I always am when I'm in 7-Eleven. I gotta go figure out which candy bar I want today. So standing in the candy aisle, trying to make up my mind, and someone comes up behind me, a man about my age, and he says, "I know who you are." And I'm like, okay, I have his kid at school, he's mad at me, you know, what's going on? He goes, "No, you are Kelly Williams' sister." This is 15 years ago. I'm old, okay? So I'm an adult, and a man comes up and says, "You're Kelly Williams' sister." She had died years before. And he said, "I think about your sister every day because she made a difference in my life." And I'm like standing in the candy aisle with tears, and my heart is melting all over in a good way. You see, this man was in my sister's 5th grade class, where the teacher did everything he did based on love and encouragement and respect. And that was innately just who Kelly was. See, people could treat her with disrespect, and she still responded with respect, with kindness. But I think a lot of the reasons she was the way she was because of the teachers in her life, but not just the teachers. See, there was Mrs. Borda. Worth Borda was our bus driver. Every single morning, my sister got to see her bright, shiny face as she encouraged her, welcomed her into the day. If we had had a hard day, if Kelly had had a hard day, it was Mrs. Borda that took us home. And by the time we got off that bus, we were smiling. You know? It was Mrs. Judd, who was a playground aide. She was always there for us. And Richard never said what he said when Mrs. Judd was around, right? Because all it took was a look from Mrs. Judd. But when he did have an opportunity to hurt Kelly's feelings, all it took was a hug from Mrs. Judd for Kelly to feel renewed and better, you know? It was Mrs. Lovelady. That was her name. I loved it. Who was the lunch lady? As a fourth grader, I thought, that is really weird. Mrs. Lovelady. But she was. She just emanated love. And Mr. Burns, who was a custodian. There were people in our lives at school. You always hear people talk about educators. They talk about the teachers. ESPs is how you refer to, what's it called?
Education Support Professionals.
Education Support Professionals. That may be your role. You are educators who make a positive impact on the students that you work with every day and on the adults who work with those students. The value in what you do is immeasurable. The why you do it gives it purpose and meaning. And so I want to ask you, there's not enough time for us in this little time together this morning to discuss someday or within your own departments, if you could do this, it would be amazing, but to discuss your why. But I want you to think about it. Why did you choose the vocation you chose? Was it a human being? For me, I worked almost 30 years in education with kids that were up against all odds because my sister was. But I also did it because of the human beings that made a positive impact in her life. I knew I could be that. That's my why. Right? So what's yours? I want you to try to keep it in your heart and keep it in your mind, not only today, but as you go back to work on Monday, for that meaning and that purpose. Because here's the deal with education. Regardless of our role, it seems like each year we get more caught up in regulations and expectations and paperwork and data and all the things around our jobs, and we lose sometimes that vocation, the calling, the meaning. In fact, when I looked at this, I was just looking for word clouds online, and when I found this, the question that occurred to me, I had to hunt for, is where's the student? So small, right? Here's the student, really? And not just a student, the human beings that we are together in the school community. That's where our focus needs to be. That's what gives us passion and meaning and purpose. It's the human beings. So that's why we call today the human mindset, or human mind frame. You'll hear me use that as well. So I want to talk about that. The human mind frame acknowledges this. All of our kids are all of our kids. Think about that. For a classroom teacher, sometimes they only see those kids that are in their classroom all day. When they walk down the hall, they have an opportunity to positively impact every kid they pass and every adult they pass. Same thing for you. What's your realm? As support staff, you have an opportunity sometimes to interact with every single kid in a school. If you have a secretarial position or administrative assistant position, if you're on the bus, you are the first person and the last person they see. You're a custodian. You're in and out of every classroom, every hallway, every school. Whatever your realm of influence, you make a difference. You said collective. Here's what we know. There's a researcher and professor, his name's John Hattie, and his work, based on thousands and thousands of studies, called a meta-analysis, tells us this. Our collective belief in our students' ability to achieve and in our own ability to make an impact on their achievement, it's the #1 indicator of student success. Well, I'll tell you, I talked to a lot of kids in the alternative setting, kids who got sent to my high school because they were expelled or suspended or they weren't successful in their traditional setting, who said, gosh, there was only one person I connected with at my high school. And more often than not, it was the head secretary or the custodian. And then that person we built a mentor relationship with, and that person came to my school once a week and spent time with that kid. That's how important it is that we all work together to positively impact our students. We're very, very focused on academic achievement. As a high school principal, I know how important that is. But we will never reach this to the maximum ability without reaching this first. We have to start with the heart. The other thing that a human mind frame or mindset acknowledges is that there is a child behind every test score. We've gotten so focused on testing, and kids are so anxious and nervous about it. Sometimes we forget the child. There is also a human being behind every behavior. Sometimes when we get frustrated and we get caught up in all that we have to do, we see the behavior first. We forget the human being, right? What's the story behind it? So in order to keep us in this place of a human mind frame, I want you to ask yourselves a couple questions. The first is this. Are our students thriving or simply surviving? David Osher, another amazing researcher, an incredible mind, is a champion for children, and he says, our kids need to thrive, but so many of them, they're just trying to get through the day. And we get frustrated with behavior, or we get caught up in what we're doing and we don't notice that they're just trying to get by. Well, we want them to thrive, right? And sometimes they're simply surviving because of what they're carrying in their invisible backpacks. I want you to visualize this. They all have one. And you know what? The truth of the matter is, all the adults in the system, we have them too. Right? We're carrying a heavy burden. Some of us more so than others. And sometimes, some days, that changes. Somebody whose burden is light one day might be really, really heavy 2 weeks later. Same thing for our kids. We have to think about this, though. In fact, I have a whole workshop that I do that's called The Invisible Backpack, and I just want to share a few things with you. I ask, you'll get sad when you read that, so I ask staff, whoever I'm working with to do this, I have little slips of paper, and I have rocks on the table. And I say, what I want you to do is I want you to think about either a student that you know of right now, or students who you've had in the past. And I want you to think about 3 to 4 experiences that are really tough that those kids have to carry, that you found out about for whatever reason you know about, but other people maybe don't. And I will tell you that it doesn't matter if I'm working with support staff, administrators, teachers, doesn't matter who I'm working with, I hear and see in these slips of paper the same thing over and over. Doesn't matter if I was just in California at this little tiny school district, and 2 weeks before I was in Las Vegas with hundreds of people. And the experiences tend to be the same. Here was one that I just randomly pulled some slips of paper. Student watched mom commit suicide. Something to carry. Mom and dad work, God bless you, work night shift. And student cares for younger siblings. It's a lot of responsibility for a kid. Parent is in prison and not responding to the child's letters. Is that kid thinking about math? Raped by cousin repeatedly. Grandmother, there's 2 bits of trauma here that we learned, not living with parents. Grandmother doesn't believe her. I will tell you, every session I've done, there is a teacher that knows about a student who has been sexually assaulted. And my question always is, has it been reported? It has, but still, the kid's carrying that. Moved 16 times and in and out of foster care. No one wants him or her. Hungry, neglected. Mom is an addict who is physically and emotionally abusive. Dad is absent. Diagnosed with 5 disorders. Doesn't matter where I am. Educators tell me that we're seeing more and more mental illness, more trauma in classrooms, in hallways, on school buses. Kids physically aggressive, and we don't know what to do. And is it our job? You know? The invisible backpack. When I do this activity, after they write on their slip of paper, they pair it with a rock, and they put it in the backpack. And by the time we get done, think about if we did it here. I have one person that collects the rocks and carries them. Pretty soon they're going slower and it's heavier. Think about that. Fill a bag with rocks and carry it with you one day. Just to remind yourself what our kids may be carrying. Sometimes things of which we know nothing. We've got to remember the invisible backpack when we interact with our students. And then we also have to ask these questions, considering what they're carrying or experiencing. What about that is within our control? Right? Mrs. Borda, our bus driver, couldn't do anything about the fact that my sister had a liver disease and looked different. But she could do everything about assuring that she was greeted with warmth and love and joy every time she stepped on the bus. So there are things that are within our control. A lot of times we want to blame parents or get mad at a situation. But that's wasted energy when really we can look at what's within our control. Our attitudes, our actions, our interactions. We can control those. And so with a human mindset, that's where we want to focus. We need to ask ourselves, what do we want to grow in our students? And yes, oh my gosh, I'm really behind on time. I just got a warning. I'm going to keep going. Thank you for that. All right. So what do we want to grow in our students? And are our actions, our routines, the way we interact, is it serving what we want to grow? Think about that. If you were a bus driver, do you have rules that actually, about responsibility, that are actually helping kids to be more responsible? If you have a rule in place that actually the same kid keeps compromising and compromising and compromising, then whatever way you're trying to grow responsibility, whatever way you're doing it isn't working. So seek out a new way. You have amazing people in professional development in Washoe County that will come help you. If you feel like what you're doing isn't working, regardless of your realm, ask. We'll give you strategies to help you. And then how we see our students, all of them, as children first, behind the behavior, behind the test score. How do we see the story that's within the kid? I want to show you a little clip, and I know I'm short on time, but it's worth it.
That's my mom.
Isabella Pieri was 9 when her mother passed away.
When I was 3, she got sick. She was really kind. She loved other people.
She learned to do most things on her own. The hardest part is her hair. It got so bad once, Isabella's dad cut it off.
He gave me a crew cut.
She gets herself ready for school.
Hey, Tammy.
Hey,
Isabella.
When the bus arrives at Greenwood Elementary, not everyone gets off.
You ready, Freddie?
The brushes come out, and the braiding begins. Isabella saw bus driver Tracy Dean fix another girl's hair, so she got up the courage to ask for help too.
And I think to myself, what if it was my child, you know? If I'm gonna cry.
The mother of 4 was diagnosed with cancer 7 years ago and thought about what her own children would do without her.
Tracy is the best bus driver in the whole galaxy.
Noticing a newfound confidence in Isabella, teacher Ann Fries wrote a letter about Tracy.
Dear Transportation Department, I wanted to bring to your attention that you have a game changer.
Tracy loves driving the bus and knows she was meant to do this.
I didn't just survive for my husband or my children. I survived for these kids on the bus that need somebody to talk to or do their hair or whatever. I feel pretty blessed.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel.
There are ways of being that don't add anything more to our plate. We all have a lot to do. But there are ways that we can be that make a difference, just like that bus driver. We can be love. Okay, I know many of you have heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. What Maslow says is, we have to have our physical shelter taken care of, our food in our body. We have to have our physiological and safety needs taken care of before we can move on, step into anything else. Well, here's what I know about many of the students that ended up with me. School was the only place that they knew that they had a roof over their head, food in their bellies, and clothes on their backs. It was it, school. So if that's the case, then where do we need to start, right? So I created a start with the heart hierarchy of needs. The foundation has got to be love. In education, we're afraid to talk about the word love. But we've got to start there with our way of being. See, we can respond from a place of love, or we can respond to things from a place of fear. We respond from a place of love. We're accepting and inviting and encouraging. It doesn't mean that we don't have high expectations for behavior. It doesn't mean that we don't believe in consequences when kids make a poor choice. All those things are important. We got to start from a place of love. We also need to be connected. I got 7 keys to connection. I'm going to have to go through them quick, but I want you aware of them. The first 4 go together. Stop, look, ask, and listen. I want you to think about your everyday experiences. How often do we do this? We're walking, we got so much going on. We go, hi, how are you? Do I care? I don't care! Because I walked right by her! She wanted to tell me! She said, good, how are you? But I didn't show her that it mattered. Hi, how are you? And I keep walking. How many of us do that on a daily basis? If we are going to ask, how are you? We need to stop, look the person in the eye, ask the question, and listen for the answer. In our daily interactions with our colleagues and our students, If we don't have time to stop, we want to say, hi, I hope you have a great day. And be done with it. Because if we ask a question, we want to show that connection is important to us. And listen for the answer, because the next day, I'm going to be able to say, hey, how's your dad? I know yesterday you were really concerned about him. And we start building relationships. Does that make sense? Okay, stop, look, ask, and listen. Step 5, key 5. The Dalai Lama says this: smiling is an essential part of daily living. When we smile with our hearts, it comes through our eyes, right? And the person that we're smiling at can't help but smile too. I just did an assembly with 4th to 6th graders. Really scary, by the way, for me. I'm a high school principal. So I did an assembly with all these little kids, and I did this activity that I often do with adults, where you pair them up. You tell them, side A, no expression. Side B, all you can do is look in the other person's eyes. Side B, your partner, smile from your heart. And that kid that was supposed to, they want to be competitive and tough, and they're not going to have any expression. Within seconds, they're smiling too. When you smile at someone else, the other person, in almost every instance, can't help but smile themselves. It brings joy. Connect kinesthetically. Now let me make myself really clear here. We're told all the time in education, especially if you're a paraprofessional, and I'm guessing we have some paraprofessionals in this room, do not touch kids, okay? Because the liability is too big. I want to say this. There are appropriate forms of touch: a handshake, a high five, a fist. And we can even ask kids what they're comfortable with. But if you go back to when we connected this morning, the second you make a physical connection, it releases a hormone called oxytocin that actually makes you feel better. So that appropriate physical connection sometimes is really important. Now, we have to keep in mind, there are some kids and adults, because of past experience, because of culture or religious beliefs, that an actual physical touch isn't appropriate. If that's the case, touch something they're connected to show them that connection is important to you. So if you can't touch them, touch something they're touching. You're still making that connection. Kinesthetic connection is so important. And finally, believe intentionally. A way to connect, to be connection with our students, is to believe in them and our colleagues. Sometimes people don't believe in themselves. A lot of our kids would say, you don't understand. I can't. I'm not capable. That's not me. And we would say this, my staff and I, we would say, you know what? We believe in you. So grab onto our belief until you can get there too. You can carry ours with you. You'll get there eventually. There's a girl, I'll end on this story, Michaela. I remember all of my life. In fact, I still see she's a young adult now living in Vegas. She came to us as a senior in high school, but she only had junior credits. She had been homeless the previous year, and in and out of school, sometimes there, sometimes not. She was so credit deficient that she came to us very shy, very timid, saying, I was told the only way I might be able to graduate is if I come to your school, but I don't know if it's possible. Pretty defeated. Well, through the year, we just watched her blossom. And she not only earned back the credits that she was lacking, but she earned the credits she needed for her senior year. She did community service. She worked so hard. And so all the requirements we had around valedictorian, guess who rose to the top? It was Michaela. And so I was so excited to share with her that she was going to be valedictorian. And I had this vision in my mind of telling her, and she was going to jump up and down and be so excited. And so I called her into my office, and I called her mentor too, and I've got this vision, right? And I'm like, Michaela, I'm so excited to tell you that you earned this year's title of Aspire Academy High School valedictorian. And looking at her, and waiting for the jumping and the excitement. That's not what I see. I tell her, and she does this. Her face gets beet red. her hands cover her face, and these huge crocodile tears start rolling. And I reach out and I go, Michaela, what? And through her hands, she says, I didn't know I was smart. I didn't know I was smart. And her mentor and I looked at each other and we go, we did? And she goes, I know! And then we all jumped up and down and got so excited. But we have to think about that. Our kids may not know their strengths. We might have to point them out for them. That kid that's always in your face, always driving you crazy, use that as a strength. You are persistent. That's perseverance. That's a quality that's going to get you far in life. We need to find a way to make it more respectful so it doesn't drive people crazy. But it's a strength. You know, we got to turn these things into positive things so that kids will feel their worth. We've got to believe in them intentionally, every single one of them, because all of our kids are all of our kids. We're going to talk more about this in the breakout session, specifically around social and emotional learning. We're going to understand the 5 competencies, look at strategies for implementation right where you are. I did bring a couple books. I can make a few more available if we don't have enough here. So what I'd really like is for you to take it back into your realm and share it, as opposed to giving them to people personally, just so that they can get around a little bit. So with that being said, thank you. I appreciate you all. Be loved.